which seemed to me a very Snapchat-y thing of them to do, because Snapchat will have filters based around events or locations, and they won't always have that. Like, maybe they might just have it day of. Like, I remember when gay marriage got legalized, they offered a rainbow filter that came out just that day. So I thought it was really interesting that Facebook started rolling out a temporary profile picture overlay that before the World Series, for Mets fans and Royals fans on Facebook, you could have a seeking the crown overlay that would expire the last day of the World Series, last potential day of the World Series. And then after the Royals won, they actually created a crown victory overlay that is set to expire in a few days. But just the idea of this temporary and then it reverts back after the event passes, it's kind of fascinating to me. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that they roll out to brands. Definitely. Where a brand could actually apply, sort of like a Snapchat event. Brands can apply to have their event featured on Snapchat.
That's what I was going to ask Bethany. Like, so as far as gay marriage, when that was legalized, obviously the rainbow filter wasn't, like, it didn't contain any logos or anything copyrighted. But for the Royals, I'm also from Kansas City, and tons of people were using those filters in addition to uploading photos and everything. And so I was thinking, like, how does Facebook get clearance from brands to do that? I don't know if you know anything about that process, or is it something that brands sign up for? Because it's good publicity for them too. Yeah. You know, it doesn't only encourage more engagement on Facebook, it also gets, it's free. Well, maybe not free, but it's publicity. I'm not sure the process, but.
Yeah, right now, I don't think they are working with the brands necessarily on it. Like the current filter for the World Series doesn't actually use any real, like, brand logos. It's just kind of something they made that was themed around the brand. Okay. I think they just kind of did it because it was such a big event. But it's sort of like Snapchat, like you said, the gay marriage thing, they just did it. But things like Lollapalooza or music concerts, people have to apply to have their events featured as a story. I see Red Bull do it a lot on Snapchat. They work with Snapchat all the time to get their cliff diving competitions featured.
Yeah. I feel like for
good comment, DeAndre.
Well, no, because you had stopped talking, but then your feed was still going. So I was like, I don't want to interrupt. But I feel like for Facebook, what they'll do is perhaps I think sports teams are pretty safe arenas for that to happen. Sports teams, things like that, and then overarching like social messaging, I think they'll do so, like the equality, Halloween, things like that. But I don't see Facebook extending that to brands to do specifically on a wide scale across the platform. I see it for things like sports, because I feel like sports are something that people are very passionate about. But in terms of monetization, I don't see them extending it and just being like, hey, McDonald's, people can do that. But the thing is, you can build apps that do that. I remember before Facebook was doing that, like 3 or 4 years ago, you could connect with a Facebook app. You could, get an overlay automatically put on your image. So it's another one of those things where it's so interesting to me how companies like Facebook and Twitter see users doing things with their platforms that they never expected. Kind of how with Twitter, retweeting was never an original an original component of Twitter until the users started doing it. And so things like that, where they see, all right, there's a lot of people doing this, a lot of people utilizing this and doing workarounds in ways that we should be implementing ourselves.
Yeah, facilitating it easier.
All the funds of our standing on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I think, DeAndre, you made a really good point about how this probably isn't applicable to all brands. You mentioned McDonald's. When I eat McDonald's, I do not want to publicize it. I just want to eat it in my car silently in the parking garage, crying.
Well,
I don't need to publicize that. But I think sports are such a good example, especially not to throw people under the bus, but bandwagoning is a thing, and it's something that gets people really excited. And people who have been fans of the Royals all their life, inexplicably, that's something that people are super passionate about. And I really think that was a good point made by DeAndre.
Well, and things like that, and also Facebook gives you the option. So on Oscar night, when you log into Facebook, it'll be like, hey, are you talking about the Oscars? check in that you're watching the Oscars, or check in that you're talking about this big event that's happening, which I think they sort of they took that functionality from there's an app that you used to be able, it was you would download it and you could watch events with people together the way people use Twitter and Facebook now. But there's, I think it was called Glue, or it was something where you could basically be watching something with lots of people. You could check in and say, I'm watching this movie, or check in and say, I'm reading this book. And so things like that really utilize Facebook as a conversational tool, which is something they've gotten away from a little bit in recent years, but that's how Facebook started, as a way to have conversations and connect with people. And I think anything that services that goal is going to be things like that. And so I think talking about things like that, the issues of equality, the overarching large issues, are going to serve that conversation better than ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. I went to McDonald's today.
Sure, but also, like, to play devil's advocate, Facebook also did something where it was like you could select celebrating Halloween. Like pre-select that as an option. Like, what are you doing? That's not a serious thing either.
Oh, yeah, no, but it's a holiday. But it's not something that's so.
Offers more stickers.
A lot of people.
Yeah, what were you saying, Bethany? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, I was saying, but yeah, as Facebook does offer more stickers or makes profile suggestions for what people should share, I as a brand, I as a hotel even, I would love it. Like, Facebook knows you're traveling, so I would love it if I could pay a little bit more for Facebook to suggest to this person that they are traveling to Sydney, Australia to stay at my hotel in Sydney. And Facebook's auto-creating that status, and all the person has to do as their action is click post. And they have that little emoji sticker or whatever ready to go. Yeah, Facebook has all that information. Like, I as a brand, I would pay for that.
Facebook doesn't facilitate check-ins anymore, do they? I remember there was a point where you could, when Foursquare first dropped on the scene, when there was Foursquare, GoWalla, and there's another one, and they were doing the check-ins. And I remember Facebook had I think it was slightly better because it's integrated, but they had a way to check in on the platform. Do they still have that? Do they still push that?
Well, when you're at somewhere and you make a post, you can say that you're at.
Gotcha.
Whatever. But I think you have to make a post to accompany that. But I'm not sure. Maybe Bethany knows. Like, I don't think you can just say at so. You have to be post a picture.
Well, it's kind of changed because you can do those stickers. So if you do say traveling to, and you could check in, and that is the status, as long as there's that verb in there.
Do you remember how Facebook, when Facebook first launched, because I was in one of the early Facebook, not the beta rollout, but I was an early Facebook adopter, back when the only way you could post a status would be Bethany is, and you have to do everything in that structure. So it would be Bethany is, you couldn't just be hanging out watching TV, it would be Bethany is hanging out watching TV. I remember the switch, when they made that switch to allow you to change your status of being, or every status did start out with person is doing something. And that was such a huge shift for Facebook. And I think that was a precursor for a lot of the things that they've been doing now, in terms of just letting people have a little bit more fun and freedom with the kind of conversations that they're having.
Yeah, it's sort of funny though, because I don't know if you look really far back on your Facebook profile, it's
sorry, did it freeze again?
Sorry, Bethany.
Just DeAndre froze.
Interrupt you.
What? Crazy technical difficulty.
I know. Lauren's not here, and I think he put a hex on.
I was just saying that, if you look back, on your old Facebook statuses, it still retains that format where it says is. So it's just kind of funny to look back and see that's how it used to be.
Definitely, yeah. I know that, Bethany, you want to touch on the new Twitter changes, which I think are juicy and interesting. Can you break it down?
We sort of started talking about things. So if you want to kind of lead off with kind of your thoughts on Twitter update.
So Twitter basically gives you the option to like things now, right? I use Twitter basically. I used to use it a lot more. I don't use it as much anymore. But now when I'm using it, I use it through a client, and so I don't know if it's carried over to my clients yet. But Twitter, felt some resistance from people, mainly Tucker, who sits here, and Laura and I, resistance towards the like button as opposed to favoriting. I mean, how do you guys use favoriting on Twitter? I usually use it as a sign of acknowledgement to someone. Like someone sends me something, but it's not enough for me to do like a whole response to them. I'll favorite their tweet just as a way of being like, hey, I saw this. How do you guys usually use favorites versus how are you going to use likes?
On Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter, I always found. Yeah, on Twitter, I always found the favoriting feature kind of a cop-out because it was something they introduced a little bit later into the game because the Facebook like was so powerful.
Yes.
And then you have other things like Pinterest and Instagram where it's all about hearting and liking stuff. So because other social networks, it was so powerful to have this simple little action. You didn't have to comment. Retweeting feels like an endorsement because you're sharing those exact words.
Yes.
Whereas a favorite on Twitter, the starring almost gives you a little bit of an anonymity. I cannot talk. You're almost a little bit more anonymous. Like it doesn't necessarily show who you are. It's a little bit harder to click in and see who's favorited the account, and it's just not as public. So it always seemed like a cop out to me. So honestly, changing that it's a star to a heart, I don't know. It's still a little bit silly. I liked the star because it's kind of like on Facebook, everyone always wanted an unlike button because it felt like when you liked a sad status, even though you're just showing support, it felt weird to be like, no, I like that your grandmother died or something.
I always have that.
Twitter favoriting is a little bit different. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry your grandmother died. And now it's like, no, I'm hearting that your grandmother died. So I don't know. It's just kind of a language issue almost with what emoji
like
is.
a little eye symbol, and it's like I saw this thing that you did.
Just a read receipt on Twitter would be great.
Yes, very true.
Well, my thing is,
but I do think.
Go ahead, Bethany.
Oh, sorry, you go, DeAndre.
Well, no, I was just going to say the functionality hasn't changed at all. It's right. As far as I know, the functionality hasn't changed. It's literally just changing it from a star to a heart, which I have to admit, I was very confused. I was an early adopter of Twitter. We should call this the DeAndre early adopter hour. But I was an early adopter of Twitter. When I was in college, my senior year of college in 2009, I was the only person at my university who I knew who was on Twitter. I didn't know anybody else on Twitter. And the star always just sort of confused me. I didn't know what it was for a very long time. And so I think changing it to a heart will make it easier for Twitter to regain some of this market that they are apparently losing in droves. They're losing people to other social networks. So maybe this is a way to connect with the youth.
Yeah.
Well, Robert has a good point. He said the Twitter like is following Facebook, who is enhancing their like buttons to include 6 more emotions. So again, it's constantly just kind of the networks are borrowing or stealing. It's almost funny because any other industry like Apple versus Samsung, there'd be lawsuits over all this stuff because they'd be like, oh, you completely stole my notification feature for your new smartphone. Whereas Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, they are constantly ripping each other off in their features.
I would worry about.
I don't. Lauren's the host. I don't think you can close him down.
Well, I'm gonna hop off. So he can join, but I'll still be here listening.
Because the one that's Lauren.
But something I do think is.
Go ahead, Bethany.
Yeah, Lauren's the host, so he has to kind of stay pulsing.
Okay, I'm gonna hop in, but I'm still gonna listen.
Actually, Laura, if you want to hop off, I can try to see if I can figure out Lauren's computer. Or if you want to stay on, I'll hop off and try to figure out Lauren's computer.
Okay.
But the only other thing I was going to say about Twitter is they're also trying to make their feature be able to share more content. Like they just rolled out polling to all users. So that's kind of a bigger thing than just changing a star to a heart. So that might be something else to kind of, I think, keep an eye on more so than a star versus heart on Twitter.
I think the star versus heart is just so easy to. Okay. What I was going to say is I think the star versus heart is just so easy to comprehend and easy to illustrate. I think that's why it's getting more traction than the other changes right now.
I agree. Hey, Robert.
Hey, how's it going? Uh-oh. Lost my volume here. Hang on.
Right. So, sorry, let me explain this better real quick. So, Lauren set this up right before he left because he has a lock on his computer and he didn't want the computer to be locked. And so, I think what happened is once the broadcast started, something happened, and so I was going to try and close out Lauren's screen, but I don't know if that'll close everything.
Yeah, I think it will, because it's the host. Last week had
Gotcha.
a really weird situation where you guys were going. I was kind of lost, and it was amazing. You guys were all gone. I saw three of you in the little pulsating profile pics, and it still said recording up in the top. And I thought, oh my God, they've all been logged. I don't know, Standing Dog was hit by a bomb or something like that. Okay. So I just kind of continued on for about 20 minutes just talking to myself, which didn't go anywhere. Right. But it's still, I still had the little stream on the side with people kind of talking, and it was like, what the heck's going on here? But I think Blab's getting a few little growing pains.
Yeah. No, I think basically what happened when he set it up, I think when you schedule that time, maybe you can't go on before that time. And so once that time hit, because I refreshed my computer and I was able to get on, but since I don't think we can refresh it, because
I think we kill it. He drops and it goes. So that's fine. But I was gonna toss in the combination. You've got the 6 additional emotions that Facebook now has. So they have and they're now you can add. Well, some people can add. I don't have it yet. I guess I don't.
I don't either.
But there's love. So you can say, hey, so stronger emotion of there's ha for laughing. There's yay, which is just kind of support for it. Then there's wow, which is sort of a little ambiguous. I think that one's probably going to get used a lot for people being politically correct. There's sad, which I think is pretty good, and then there's angry. I think angry will get used a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's interesting that they weren't very consistent in their naming conventions for those. Like ha is a sound we make. Sad is emotion. Yay is also a sound. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, funny for ha or something like that. Or,
I just wish they would have been a little bit more consistent. But I still like the idea. I still like the idea.
You know what's really interesting?
I kind of think Twitter would do the same. And I think that's why they put the little heart instead of the star, because the star was too ambiguous. And it's like, well, does that mean you like it or you're just bookmarking? I don't know.
Right.
So
I think it's interesting that, remember when BuzzFeed first launched way back when, and their big thing, BuzzFeed's first, their big slant before they became media production powerhouse stuff.
Listicles,
right. You could respond to their articles using stickers.
And you still can.
Right. But it's not as much of I don't see it as much in their posts, but I remember that being a big thing for BuzzFeed, that they haven't phased out, but the focus isn't on that anymore. It's interesting that now everything's always kind of cyclical to me, especially in the whole social media thing, especially with Twitter dropping the character limit, which I'm actually very glad they did it for direct messages, at least. I hate trying to have a conversation with someone and then
for direct messages, that's great. Yeah. For a general Twitter, it's like, wait, no, let's keep it at 140.
I agree. I agree. And I think it helps. The Twitter character limit for me helped me become more concise with what I was saying.
Yeah.
It helped me to get my point across without needing 8 different tweets to get them across. But people have adapted. People started doing they'll do that continued, or they'll do 1 of 5, and I think the way people, I think those tight parameters on Twitter gave people forced them to be more creative with the way that they communicated, which I think is always a good thing.
I don't think it's always a good thing, because one of the things that's become popular on Twitter is if people want to say a lot, but it's more than 140 characters, they'll upload a screen cap of something that they typed in their notepad or in a Word doc or something like that. Which is, I mean, that's fine. But as far as SEO purposes, as far as people who maybe have vision impairments and use different tools to so that text is read out loud to them when they're using a computer. Right. So those type of tools can't crawl JPEGs or PNGs or GIFs. It's not possible. Robots Google robots cannot crawl that sort of content because it's an image, it's not text. So I think that sometimes those parameters are good, and obviously in the case of Twitter, it does make you be more concise. But sometimes they force people to do things that maybe exclude other people or aren't super SEO friendly. So I thought that was interesting. that's becoming.
I can definitely see it, but my perspective is on Twitter that if you have a message that you're putting out, if you can't condense it into 140 characters, then you need some more steps in your process, or you just need to simplify what it is.
Yeah, it's
but
like,
I know a lot of those little celebrity tweens do that when they're trying to like apologize for something. They'll like write the apology on a notepad and then like post a screenshot of what they wrote to Twitter. Yeah.
But I do agree with you, DeAndre. Like it's sort of like when you're starting a business and maybe the investor will say, tell me in two sentences what it is that you do. What is your goal? What is your mission statement? And I agree. If you can't do that, then you don't know what you're doing quite yet. Like if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old, you got to figure out how to do that because there is.
Well, simplicity is important for communication. Just to be able to go, this is what we're doing. The problem I publish a travel quote of the day, right? And I've got thousands of these things, right? And they're all queued up. But for Twitter, I wind up kind of having this, I need the hashtag, and I crammed it down to like, TQOD, type thing. And then you get this great quote, and you're like, I feel really bad because I want to get the essence of the quote, but now I'm editing somebody, some Shakespeare's words, which, he's going to be pissed off. I take one of these, he might have wanted that in there.
Right. Yeah, do you remember the Twitter shortening services that they used to have where you would put in your tweet and it would automatically condense it based on text speak, so it would turn like it would just take out vowels basically.
So speaking of, I wanted to mention, speaking of the new Facebook emotions that they're adding in, the ha-ha and the sad, do you think, DeAndre and Robert, do you guys think that there will be people out there that will, I don't know if I want to say abuse it, but like, what if someone's like, my grandma died? And do you think people will, do you think that this will will it make it easier for bullies to bully?
Maybe. But that's, my grandma died's a great, example because I've seen people do that. Actually, my wife's mother passed away. And, you kind of put people favoriting that. And it's like, well, no, like's not good.
Right,
that's the wrong thing. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think in some cases, they'll say this person's a jerk, sort of thing. And
then might make it easier to clean out your friends list.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think part of it is how it's phrased. If someone close to me passed away, my Facebook status wouldn't be they died. It would be they had a great. It would be like, hey guys, just letting you know that this happened and I'm going through this. And then I interpret any likes to that as people being like, yes, we're supporting you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of it, I think, is intent.
Context.
But I don't see people abusing it any more than I remember when Facebook initially introduced the stickers. There is this old guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. Like, he uses a sticker on everything. He'll just post stickers. He'll just respond with stickers. It's kind of like my mom using Facebook. Like that's what she's like. Oh, it's pretty. I'm gonna put it on everything. Not realizing that there's time and there are places for things like that. And I think like situations like that, the same way when Facebook was really resistant to allowing GIFs on the platform. It was only like a few years ago that you could respond with the photo content. I remember the dark ages of not being able to respond with a photo on a comment. I just think this is a natural progression of that, of allowing people. And some people are seeing it as a MySpaceification of it, but I see it as giving people things that they're wanting because people are already doing this. People are already responding to each other with either reaction GIFs. And Facebook actually built GIFs into their Messenger app. On Messenger, you can respond with a GIF. On the phone, the mobile version of it, you can respond with a GIF. Giving people what they want in parameters that feel organic and good to the platform, as opposed to just letting people do whatever they want.
Yeah, well, and I think also for a lot of businesses, the whole like baiting thing now.
Yes.
By having multiple it's not just going to be kind of this binary, you got it or you didn't. Now all of a sudden, somebody's going to post something about a company, and all of a sudden there's going to be angry, sad.
Yes.
It's like,
you can find some data.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, it's even like a lot of people do those things like, hey, look at my new cardigan. like if you like it and comment if you don't, or it's like retweet for this, fave for that.
Share for that.
Right,
Yeah.
Which is,
I always do that from the Nigerian princes to make millions of dollars, but I don't know. There's something the banking system never works
How
out.
has that worked for you?
One other thing I wanted to bring up. There's a great report that came out from the from Global Web Index, which is basically all the social networking trends going on around the world. And so everybody thinks, well, I don't know if it's U.S. exceptionalism or whatever, but it's like, oh, we're so advanced and into social media and all that stuff. You start looking at how many hours people spend on it, and it's interesting. So you look across the world. In 2012, it was like 1.61 hours. It's only gone up to about 1.77. So it has increased, but it's not a lot. But you look at the U.S. and I think it's under 2 hours a day, which is a lot of time to spend on social media. But you look at that's way behind Vietnam, the big ones, the Philippines, Malaysia, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Thailand, Turkey, UAE, what else? South Africa, Saudi Arabia. I mean, these guys are way up 3, in some cases, getting close to 4 hours a day on social media. The Philippines, I think, is just over 4 hours a day on social media, which is incredible. So again, it doesn't have enough insights into what exactly people are doing. Are they on there just communicating with friends and things like that and having direct conversations and messaging, or are they just sharing information? But it's really interesting that I've seen a lot of things. And I wish I had the stat. I think I probably closed the window of the lurking on Facebook. I think this was from Adweek, posted something. So they said that in the last, I believe it was quarter, only a third of the people actually put a post onto Facebook. So they actually, created and generated comment, as opposed to just being on it consuming, which I think is kind of interesting. So you kind of have this lurking phenomenon going on where people are consuming it, but I don't know. That's another interesting dimension. But it's a great report. It breaks out all the different platforms, things like that. Again, a lot of focus on Facebook. One of the things on Facebook, though, I thought was very interesting, that they're now up to, what's the percentage? I've pulled it up here on the screen. The question was, the categorization was, I'm just not as interested in using Facebook as I used to be, and it was at 20% in the third quarter of 2000. Actually, no, it was about 20. Let's say 23, 24%, third quarter of 2014. It's now dropped to 20% in the second quarter of 2015. So you kind of go, oh, it's the Facebook, you would expect fatigue to set in, but it was actually the boredom and things like that is reducing, which either means that there's an explosion of new users on it who really love it, who haven't fallen into kind of the fatigue syndrome, or the changes that Facebook's making are increasing engagement and keeping people on it and going. So
would
I
you
think
be able to send out a link to that, Robert?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Super. We are hitting time, but thank everybody for coming, and thanks for letting me be Lauren today. I am in his office among his things. Maybe I'll prank him somehow. But awesome. See you guys next week for This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing with cool.
And don't cut off yet, so I can post the link.
Will do. Here, let me hold on, because I'm like literally in Lauren's office, just like.
Here, I think you can sign off, DeAndre. Okay, you just tweeted it out, so I'll copy this right now.
Yep,
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, DeAndre.
Good stuff. See you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.